If you only experience World of Warcraft through the lens of YouTube or Reddit, you would think that the game was an unplayable mess. Every change that is made is killing the game. Every design system is somehow rudely disrupting the player base. I mean, if you listen to this rhetoric, WoW has apparently been dying for the last 15 years. I'm not saying the game is perfect. There are real issues worth criticizing at times. Things like poor class balance, or more relevant to the current moment, feedback on upcoming add-on changes going into the next expansion. Constructive feedback is good. It's how the game improves. What I am saying is that online discourse surrounding WoW has been overwhelmingly negative for a long time. But this negativity is mostly unfounded, and it's driven by social media's tendency to reward outrage content and create these toxic echo chambers. So in this video, I'm going to break down why WoW discourse online is so overwhelmingly negative, why a lot of common complaints are either exaggerated or just straight up unfounded, and why buzz terms like horizontal progression aren't the MMO savior that people seem to pretend that they are. Alongside this, we're also going to talk about how to avoid these negativity traps in a way that leads to a legitimately more enjoyable experience of the game. Altogether, this game is wonderful, and I'd hate to see it ruined unnecessarily by online discourse. Alright, welcome to my TED Talk. Let's get into it. I think it's probably worth talking to start with about why the online content space is more negative than it is positive. Firstly, social media algorithms do incentivize more negatively charged content. It is just a natural habit of humans to gravitate towards clicking on and engaging with negatively framed things over positively framed things. The issue that arises here is that videos that elicit strong emotions, especially those of outrage, are going to get a lot more attention. As a result, a lot of creators are almost positively reinforced to whine and complain about any element of the game they possibly can, because more people click on it. The more people that click on it, the more views that it gets, the more that it gets pushed out to the rest of the population. It doesn't actually reflect the overall negativity within the game itself. It reflects our tendency to engage more with negative content online than with positive content. The second thing that is almost a side effect of this is it creates these echo chambers in online spaces where everybody sort of congregates with these negative viewpoints. They bounce the negative viewpoints back and forth off of each other without ever considering any of the alternatives. Now, to be clear, I'm not actually just here to defend Blizzard. What I do want to do is try to separate what's actually real issues within the game that are worth providing constructive criticism about versus negatively framed algorithm farming content slop. The first one, I hear this a lot, that the social state of World of Warcraft is bad and that nobody is incentivized to build connections with other people anymore. This, I think, is broadly speaking untrue. The reason I say this is, yes, while there are a lot of avenues of content these days that don't require as much contact with other people, if you are open to building connections with other people, there is absolutely some wonderful communities within this game. Now, speaking of myself, I'm autistic. I don't really like meeting new people. However, over the past 2 to 3 years of playing this game, I have developed some genuinely extensive and positive social networks with other people because I've looked for them. The thing is, people have this idea in their head that the game is terribly antisocial and nobody talks to anyone anymore, where what is actually going on is nobody is actively trying to make friends with other people in the game. Nobody is adding others on BNet and sending messages. Nobody is looking to do multiple different dungeon runs over the course of different days with the same people. Instead of joining a raid group to do the raid, say, on a weekly basis at a certain time, they're jumping into pugs and then complaining about the fact that no connections are being built with other people This is almost like someone rocking up to like a nightclub or the pub or something like that, and then sitting in the corner putting money on like horse races or like punching slot machines, and then walking out and going, man, pubs are terrible places to meet new people and make friends. They're actually really good places to do that. You just actually have to try when you're there. Like, it's not going to get spoon-fed to you. Another one that I'll hear basically every patch is that class balance is terrible and that this spec is broken and this spec is busted and blah, blah, blah. I've talked about this so much in the past, but as a whole, class balance in World of Warcraft is extraordinarily good. Despite what you will see from every tier list that ever pops up about this class is in S tier and this class is in bottom tier and yada, yada, yada. When it comes to all but the absolute tip-top end of gameplay, the class balance is fantastic. You could feasibly get to about a plus 18 in Mythic Plus without playing anything meta. You could play like the most off-meta pick, and as long as you are actually playing the game well and you are persistent, you can push into like the top, say, 0.5% of the player base. In general, the damage scaling between the top and the bottom specs in the game is very rarely wider than 10%. It's more often than not around the 5% mark. A DPS output difference of only 5% between the top and the bottom is very good. Where it can sometimes get a little bit more of a genuine concern is when certain classes have abilities that generally are just really powerful in certain settings. I'm looking at you, Death Knights. You've had a really good expansion. This is a sort of different story entirely, but even then, that utility is useful up until these like really, really high-end keys. Then it becomes mandatory. However, the thing is, it's useful at a lower level. It's not actually needed to be able to succeed. Another one, WoW's in-game purchases, I think, broadly speaking, for a long time have been mostly optional and are actually not bad for the game at all. This might be a bit of a hot take, but if we look at the Blizzard shop, it is primarily made up of like cosmetic mounts and transmog, things that basically nobody needs. And if you want to spend money on it, then like, sure, go for it. But if not, then you don't have to. The exceptions to this are probably 3 separate things, and I don't think that these are even that big of a deal. The most egregious is probably the Brutosaur, because it is actually a fairly useful mount to have. Now, everyone was throwing their hands up in the air about, oh, you know, like, unless you want to spend $120, you're not going to have a mobile auction house. I still haven't bought one of the Brutosaurs, and for the most part, it is at worst a minor inconvenience that I have to go to the auction house in the main city. It's not that big of a deal. It's not pay to win. If you want to spend the money on it, you can, but you don't have to. The level boost, I think, broadly speaking, is more just a waste of money because of how cheap gold leveling services are these days. The one real downside I can see with the paid leveling boost is that it might be off-putting for new players coming in if they were to boost their character and then not know what to do with that character when it hits max level. However, broadly speaking, I don't think it's overly impactful on the game. And then the third, the WoW token. Now, this is a bit of a funny one, but I kind of like how this is implemented in the game, mainly because it offers an avenue for people who like making gold to convert that to their subscription, and it offers an avenue for people who don't like gold making to pay real money to get that gold, instead of having to go through like backwater shady sites, right? People will still do that because the rates are cheaper, but you know. Now, again, there are some genuine concerns that are worth talking about. I think I'm not hugely into PvP, but from what I understand, there are a lot of concerns with PvP engagement, the system itself being way too hard to break into. There's also been some genuine concerns around things like unintuitive systems in the game for the last couple of patches. Stuff like the crafting system, I think, is really good once you get your head around it, but it's sort of like not that obvious for people who either haven't played for a while or are completely new to the game. Another one, low-end toxicity. Now, this is another thing that I think gets complained about a lot. People saying that the game's extremely toxic and not very forgiving to players. I don't think this is broadly speaking true. However, it is true at a certain level. I find that the sort of weekly key level, sort of the +8 through to like maybe the +12, +13, you definitely do encounter some of these overly toxic and just generally negative players. Funnily enough, though, the higher up into the game you get, if you ever do end up doing competitive stuff, now this is outside of PvP, I'm talking PvE specifically, the toxicity actually, for the most part, disappears. Now, why am I going over all of this? Well, the fact is, I think a lot of the content space will spend a great deal of time talking about how these systems and these things in World of Warcraft are negative and that the game is dying, when in reality, I think the issues are either overblown or basically non-existent. One sort of specific area that I think is worth talking about is the whole idea of horizontal progression being like the savior for MMOs, and everyone dooming on the fact that WoW's vertical progression system doesn't reward consistent gameplay and it resets your gear every patch, yada yada yada. I think this is just another example of like one of these echo chambers developing in social media spaces, because while horizontal progression in other games is cool, it isn't just automatically better. I mean, like if we look at YouTube, right, there was this little stint of time where every content creator was making videos like, all WoW players are going to old school RuneScape, and then videos about how old school RuneScape's horizontal progression system is so good. Now, I have a maxed main on old school RuneScape. I like that game, like a lot. I've probably put about 8,000 hours into it. People are sort of talking about WoW's vertical progression system like it's like, oh, it's this infinite treadmill and you just get gear and then like the gear's invalidated. The thing is, the system, the way that it is actually not bad at all. Let's use an analogy to talk about it. Let's say you play sport. I play cricket, but say you play soccer or football or whatever it is that is your sport of choice. If you go through an entire season training, honing your skills, getting better, and then you win a premiership at the end of the season, you then proceed to not train for the entire off season and then maybe miss a season or something like that, your skills then drop as a result. Do you then come back and say that the achievement of winning the premiership and all of the skills that you built up to achieve that are useless? No. That would basically mean that nobody would want to play sport whatsoever. Now, maybe you do feel like that. I don't know, but it does sound a lot more ridiculous when it comes to sports. The thing with WoW is there are windows of time, much like a season in a sport, where you can put in the effort to gain power, gain knowledge, gain expertise within that specific period of time to then accomplish things, and those accomplishments are either the things that you take with you into the future or that you look back on, right? If you are a raider and you put in all this work to get a cutting edge over a certain season, yes, the gear is gone after that season, but the gear isn't the thing you were working towards. The gear was a means to an end. You were looking to get the gear so that you could accomplish something in that window of time. Same goes for Mythic Plus. Like, I will relentlessly gear multiple characters every patch. Yes, the score disappears down the track, but the title and the memory and the experience of achieving something within that window of time, that's what you're shooting for. You're not shooting for gear that you have forever. I do like horizontal progression systems in a way, but they're not this universal fix that is going to solve everything. Now, I guess, like, what's the point of me making this video? Well, part of it is just to rant because I am kind of sick and tired of seeing just overwhelmingly negative discourse around things that either aren't issues or are just grossly over-exaggerated. The social state of this game is actually fantastic. There are so many good communities out there that you can join. I was at one point involved in like the twinking community. I was at one point involved in a lot of Mythic Plus spaces. I still am. I've been involved with a guild for years now. Woolly Mammoth is a fantastic place to be. I've made lots of really good online friends. There's just random people that I've met over time. If you go out of your way to actually engage with other people, you will find other people. And the thing is, if you're here whining about how antisocial the game is and that you wish there was more social connections, and a lot of other people are doing that, it means that there's a lot of people looking for social connections, so just go find them. On top of this, like, I really like this game. I don't know if it's become really obvious, but I actually love this game, and I find it so frustrating when this overwhelmingly negative discourse just like captures everyone's attention, and I think people fall victim to it as well. They start to, if not directly engage with it, they start to fall into the trap of thinking some of this must be true because it just gets thrown around a lot. I want people to stop and think when they see content online, is this actually a constructive piece of criticism, or is this a poster or a content creator making absurdly negatively charged content because they know that it drives clicks? They know that people engage with that sort of stuff, and it may not actually be a true reflection of the game as a whole. The game is actually quite good. It has its problems. Things need fixing at times, but as a general rule of thumb, there is a lot of positives, and there are a lot of really, really cool opportunities that you can look for. So don't let the noise of all the doom posting impact your perceptions. If you are not wanting to play and you're just engaging with this content because you've got some sort of sunk cost idea of, I can't quit, so I'm just going to like bitch and moan about how negative it is, then like just give up, man. Just like go somewhere else. However, outside of that, the game's pretty good, and I really like it, and hundreds of thousands of other people also really like it. Just be aware that the framing of things you see online is very rarely a reflection of how the game actually is. Let me know your thoughts in the comments though. I wanted to make this video because I genuinely love this game, and it saddens me that people's experiences of it are soured, or that people would even avoid playing it altogether due to rampant online negativity that is often not even based in reality at all. The content space needs more positivity, especially since I think it's actually deserved a lot of the time. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. Big thank you to Ghost Splinter and all of my other YouTube members. If you want to support the channel, check out the join button below the video. Otherwise, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Until next time, gamers, take care.